Do you want to learn the Unity editor in 12 minutes? If so, then stick around. This program right here is called the Unity Hub. And what it is just a standalone application, and it's going to allow you to manage your Unity projects. It's also going to allow you to manage different Unity installations, manage your licenses. So what's cool is you can have different versions of Unity installed. So you can see right here, I have 2021.3.2, and up here I have 2022.3.4. There's also this learning page, which gives you some learning material here. And here in the community section, you have the asset store where you can download art and some tools. So for the most part, you're going to start your projects from this Unity Hub, and you're going to open your projects from this Unity Hub. So the first thing we'll do is just make a simple project. And I'm gonna choose to make a 2D project. You'll notice that there's 2D and 2D URP. So URP stands for Universal Render Pipeline, and it is the newer rendering engine. I'm going to choose that one. I'm gonna name this Tutorial 1. And be patient when you make your first project. It could take a while. Okay, you can see that the Unity editor started. I also put out the Unity Hub right here, and the next time we can open it right from Unity Hub right there. So this is the Unity editor. There's a couple of these views and windows that we really want to learn about. The first one is over here, and it's called the hierarchy window. The second one is the scene view, which is over here. And then we have the game view, which is right here. We have the inspector window. And I have to select an object in order to see something in the inspector right here. And then we have the project window down here. You can rearrange these to your liking. We also have the toolbar right here. So let's go through the toolbar. You can see that we can select any of these right here. And we use these in the scene view. And it allows us to move around the scene and move objects around the scene. We also have the play, pause, and step buttons shown here. So I can actually click the play button and we can see our game run. We don't really have anything in it, but we can see it run down here in the game view. So here it is, just a blank screen. You'll also notice that parts of my screen kind of turn green. That's just so I know that I'm in play mode rather than this mode, which would be where I can edit. So by default, yours is going to turn a little bit gray, but I edited mine so it's a little bit more pronounced. The next thing is the hierarchy view. We can see that right here. And the hierarchy shows everything that is in a scene. So here's our blank scene. We get a light and we get a camera. So what we want to do is add an object to the scene, and we're just going to add a square. So I'm going to say 2G object, sprite, and then square. Okay. And you'll notice that it just kind of plops it down, and I can move it around using this move tool. If I select the move tool and ensure that the square is selected over here, I can move this thing around. Now, if I add another square, right, I can move this around. Now, if I would happen to have two objects kind of on top of each other and it's, kind of hard to select the one in the back, you can always go over here to the hierarchy and select the one that you want. So you can see I can select the camera, the light, the square, and then the other square. So I could, of course, move these out from on top of each other. And then if I want to move the camera so the light's not right on top of it, I can do that just to show you. There we have it. And the way that 2D graphics work in Unity is it only uses two of the three dimensions. It uses the X and the Y axis. So notice that when I move things around, I can only move them on the X and Y axis like such. When I select one of these other objects, right, I can move this around like such. And the way it works is it's actually in 3D space now. They implement it by just kind of ignoring the Z-axis. When I go to this view here, we're going to look at the 3D view, and we're going to see that these shapes pretty much have no depth to them. So I could certainly move these along the Z-axis, and you can see that they just have no depth to them. They're not really a cube. It's just a cube with no depth, essentially. So we can see that there. Now I can move it way back here, and when I go back to the 2D view, it still looks the same to us. So if I put it behind the camera, that's not going to be good. I can't even see it now. So let's go and get that thing back here. All right, and put it back where it was at. All right, so, these should be at 0, and if you have a hard time getting it exactly at a 0, take a look over here at the Z-axis as I move this around, right? You might want to just come here into the inspector and push and type a 0 in right like that. Then select this one, and we'll put that one right back at 0. So it really just puts all of our objects at 0 on the Z-axis, and then the camera is just kind of sitting out front looking at it from the front there. And we kind of have this view here when we look at it from the camera view. So one of the most important things that we're going to do is learn how to do scripting, which is programmatically taking care of game logic and adjusting all the visual objects that make up the game. I recommend using Visual Studio. You can install Visual Studio and also select to have Visual Studio tools for Unity as well. You can set up whatever editor you want by going to Unity and going to Settings. And what we're doing, we're looking down here at External Tools, and you can select the software application that you want to load for you to do your coding. Since coding is so important, we want to go ahead and start coding some things right away. Now, when we write code inside of Unity, they're called scripts, and we essentially attach scripts to objects. So we can kind of arbitrarily pick one of these squares. I'm just going to pick the first one here, and I'm going to go down to this, and I'm going to click Add Component. And you're going to see a list of components that you can add. You can go down here to New Script if you'd like, or you can just start typing the name of something as well. So it does have some autocomplete. So if we were going to add a different component, we could just start typing it in. So we could do maybe audio, right? And we find all kinds of components we can add. Now, if we type something like my new script, by default, it's just going to say, well, it doesn't find that, and it gives you the option of kind of naming it while you search for it like that. So we'll do that. Now, notice the name of my script. I have it as my new script. I can do create and add. And after it adds it, look at the name. It puts spaces in there, my new script, and that's just kind of like a friendly name. So every time it sees a capital letter, it's just going to treat that as a word, and it just kind of gives you a friendly name right there. So what we want to do is simply open this script up. You can just double click it, and it should open up whatever editor you decided to use. In our case, we use Visual Studio. This happens to be Visual Studio for Mac, but Windows also works. Okay, we see the name of the script here. It's called My New Script. It makes a new class. It inherits something from mono behavior. So we will eventually learn about the lifecycle, but this function called start is run exactly one time at the beginning when the script is invoked. So the first thing we can do is just print a little log message. Now you're going to want to save this. When you save it and switch back to Unity, it will automatically update Unity. So we saw right there that it just updated it. So now when we run this, we're going to see that message printed. And you would need to come down here in this console window. All right, and then you see this thing that says my new script. You can see the output right here. It says my new script start ... Okay. And this 1 means that it printed 1 time. So anytime it sees the same message printed over and over again, rather than flooding the screen, what it will do is just increment this number right there. So let's open the script again. You can either head right back into Visual Studio, or you can just double click your script again. So what I'm going to do here is make a similar message. This time I'm just going to say update. Okay, so you can see in the comments that are auto-generated, update is called once per frame. So what this is going to do, it's going to print out this message many times. So we can see again, the script is updating. Then when we run this, we're going to see, well, now we have 2 of those messages in there, right? Because we ran it twice. 2 times it said start, just now and then the time before. And over here, you can see that it's saying update. And rather than flooding the screen, it's just counting up like that. You can clear it at any time. Just click clear and it clears it out. So what I can do is I can print something unique right here by just kind of appending a timestamp. So we need to have system in here. We need to refer to that library. And then we'll be able to get a timestamp. And now it'll print a timestamp every time. And we can run it. So you can see it calls 283 times. Right, so that's roughly about how many frames per second I'm getting here. It's probably slowing down my frames per second just because it has to print all this debugging out. So that is the beginning introduction for Unity. We saw the Unity Hub, we saw the Unity Editor, we saw the hierarchy window, we saw the inspector, the scene view, the game view, we saw the project view, and then we also saw how we can do some scripting as well. I hope you learned something in this video. Have a good day.